Welcome to the Trail Chasers podcast. I'm your host, Dean Horwitz, and I'm excited to share this journey with you. Each week, we'll be hitting the trails with some of South Africa's most inspiring trail runners, diving into the topics that matter most and uncovering the secrets of this incredible sport. Lace up your trail shoes and join me on this adventure. New episodes every week. Naomi, welcome to the Trail Chasers. Finally, I think it's, what's great about UTCT, obviously, is we have so many internationals here, but it's also a great opportunity to get some of our locals who have disappeared.
Yes.
And also for me, I find that you're extremely relatable. I think that's kind of why I want to have you on, in that you're still smashing it and winning races, but also seem extremely down to earth. And so I want to explore that, and obviously explore the other side of you that clearly you're here in your scrubs. So welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
I like to kind of start off these things with a bit of a visualization exercise. I don't know if you want to take me back to Three Peaks or maybe a race before that, because I know Three Peaks wasn't your, but
it wasn't a proud moment.
yeah, but when you're kind of standing on the start line, and that, like the night before, what does that kind of routine look like for you?
Sure. I must say, I'm usually a nervous wreck. So I have always been, whether it's in my work or exams or any sort of a test, because I'm so hard on myself and I'm really competitive. I've always been really, really nervous. But recently, and especially before UTMB, surprisingly, I've been really calm. And I try and visualize myself crossing the finish line. I think if you can picture yourself doing something and sort of have a vision of that, what that might look like, it helps you to get there in a way. I've had races where I couldn't picture myself finishing it, and those are usually the really tough races where I end up having a DNF or really struggling, because in some way you kind of know if you're ready or not, underlyingly. And I think before UTMB, for instance, I felt super ready. And I had this amazing, even standing in that crowd, which is nerve-wracking to the point of it's quite a thing being there. I think you can't really explain it to anyone. There's this murmur and there's music and there's so many people. But I managed to calm myself quite a bit because I knew I was ready. So it really depends on, I think, how I prepared for the race. But I try and picture myself finishing it and being proud, and then work towards that vision.
Amazing.
Yes.
And is there a different feeling between the kind of South African races and the UTMB races for you?
Absolutely. I think with the South African races, I'm always so distracted because it's like coming to your best friend's wedding. For me, it's just everyone I know and everyone I love. And I want to be nervous and focus and like stand there with my eyes closed. But then someone from the side will yell, "Naomi, how are you?" And then I end up giving someone a hug when the gun goes off. So it's that kind of amazing distraction, I think. And sometimes my parents come and watch, like UTCT, they're always there. And just, it's more that excitement of seeing people and seeing your friends compete that you have run with for years and stuff. So it has a different feel, very much so.
And if you kind of look back over your career, what are some of the defining moments or the kind of the memories that kind of stick out?
There's so many. I've been running for so long. When you kind of pitched this question to me on the message, I was like, is there any one moment I can single out? I think one specific thing that really changed my whole trail running, I don't want to say career because I don't see myself necessarily as a professional, but I had always wanted a sponsorship. I was really, from school years, I did cross country and I did track, and everyone told me I've got a talent, but like since before someone doesn't believe in you enough to say, I want to sponsor you, you don't often feel like you're good enough. And I had a sponsor approach me it's long ago, I think 2015. and they wanted to give me, they don't exist really more. It's NavWorld. They used to have Garmin and Nike. And they basically approached me and say, we will give you a watch and kit you out and whatever. And that for me was that, like, someone believes in me now. I want to show them and prove myself. And that was the start of, like, entering races that I didn't think I could do, but, like, wanting to prove myself even more. So race-wise, like, experience-wise, there's so many I can't count, like, races that was incredible things that I saw. But I think for me personally, someone believing in me changed the sport for me, made me want to go further.
and you mentioned you've been around for a while, and how do you kind of reflect back on that? Especially, you know, trail running has boomed over like the last year, you know, and it's almost like there was like a before and after. And, you know, being in I think a lot of people will be surprised, you know, when you kind of look at your results and it goes all the way back. So how do you kind of reflect on that and kind of reflect on the fact that it's almost like the 10-year overnight success story?
Well, when I started, my first 100 mile, I think there were 2 girls on the start line. So you're first and second either way. Like that kind of competition has changed immensely. And with that, I think came a lot of things. But it lifted the sport to a new level, especially for women, in the sense that you have to actually train properly, look at the fine details like nutrition and things to actually get somewhere with the sport. That's changed. It feels like it's changed overnight, but over a couple of years. And sure, I can't even imagine a time it wasn't like that. But for me, even when I come home to South Africa, seeing the many groups of people that run, seeing so many young people, seeing so many women on the start line, I personally think it's a positive thing. And it continues to amaze me, surprise me, how the fact that there's more people doing it and they're more serious about the sport, what sort of blossoms out of that. New races, new people challenging themselves, disabled people doing trail runs, and like it's just, I think, like with anything, you can look for the negative side in the sense that it's becoming very commercialized and all of that. But for me, the fact that it attracts more people and more people think, oh, I can do this, and are willing to try, that's a positive thing. And yeah, I mean, for my personal journey, it's definitely up the competition. You have to, on the start line, you don't know what can happen. There can be at UTMB about between 30 and 50 women that could be it for that day. So you're very aware that there's competition and you have to work really hard and bring your A game.
You know, reflecting back, was there kind of a spark that kind of lit the trail running fire? You mentioned you did cross country in school, so I assume running was kind of always part of your life, but was there kind of a moment, you know, when the bug kind of bit?
Absolutely. I did road and cross country and did it quite seriously, and then I got a very bad injury. I tore my glute from my hip bone, so crutches, steroid injections, and I was out for quite a long time. In total, probably about 5 years, which is a long time.
Wow.
Like, I've been running since I was 12, so that was a big block of no real racing or anything. And then someone told me about trail running. So in that time, a few more races started, and I've always known about African X, and always, because I am from the Cape, always wanted to run in these beautiful mountains. And so I entered African X with someone. And obviously African X being it's like a 3-day stage race, and there's so many people. What attracted me, what basically sold me, was the community. I think if you come from a road running background, you'll agree. Yeah. And I think way back, anyway, there wasn't such a big community. Girls would literally elbow each other on the start line, and everyone's like in their zone, and you run and you go home. But with trail running, you have this, I don't know, camaraderie. People just want to make you part of things and pull you in. And that was my first taste of it. And obviously, growing up running on the farm, I was like, this is amazing. This is how I learned to run, is on gravel roads and uneven surfaces. And the weather is a challenge. altitude is a challenge. There's so many more challenges than just running a certain pace for a certain time. And I think there's more longevity in it. I realized, because I got injured on the road, that the trail is a bit kinder to you.
Yeah.
You can push actually quite hard without getting to that injury risk. So, yeah.
And the 100-mile distance, when did you, was that kind of always the goal, or was it a gradual thing, or was it straight into it?
I like suffering. So I think I actually saw Addo on television. My parents were watching something and they showed Addo on the TV. And I was like, you can run day and night. And the people looked like they were really, I mean, they had headlamps on and stuff that I'd just never seen before, these big backpacks. And I was like, well, this is suffering for so much longer. You're going to be really tough. I've always been a bit of a diesel engine. So I was like, maybe, I know I'm not the fastest person, but if I can continue like endure, then maybe that's my thing. I probably did a lot of mileage anyway in school already, maybe too much actually, but I had a good like base, and I started quite young for a girl, I think, doing the long distances, but I was immediately sold. I was like, you go see God, you you go through phases of feeling very good and very bad, and it's amazing what your body can endure. So after the first one, you're also, I want to do more. So, so yeah.
Amazing.
Sold.
You're clearly here in your scrubs.
Yes.
The veterinary, I think often we get people in here, who are professional trail runners or not professional trail runners, and you kind of straddle both worlds. So, what drew you to kind of the veterinary studies, and how has that journey been?
I've always wanted to work with animals. I grew up on a farm, and I actually was very, very little. I think I was like 4 or 5 when I said to my parents, I think I watched Lion King one too many times, I want to have like an animal sanctuary. And that's always actually been my heart. I'm more of a wildlife conservation person, and that's still my goal. I think if we ever come back to South Africa, I do really want to start like a wildlife sanctuary. But I first went the very long route around. I did all sorts of other studies. And in the end, my older sister's a vet. I was like, okay, I will try this veterinary thing. And halfway through, I didn't want to do it anymore because it's incredibly hard. And I realized how much time and sacrifice it takes. Most people who are vets just do veterinary. But I don't know if you've noticed people like Nicolette. And there's actually a couple of really good runners that do both. And I think it complements each other nicely, in the sense that you have to have a lot of grit to do it, and it takes what I learn in veterinary, often things like I don't know, the kindness to people, the hanging in there when you want to lose hope. I can extrapolate then to running, and vice versa. If I'm having a very, very hard day, standing 7 hours for surgery, I think of my running like, I'm an endurance athlete, I can do this. So it does complement each other. But man, it's hard to do both. I don't sleep a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, besides from the passion for it, has that kind of held you back from becoming a professional runner, or is it just the opportunity has kind of never presented itself?
So a couple of months ago, I actually took the plunge. It took me a couple of years. And I decided, okay, I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to save up for a couple of months, leave my job. And my very kind husband said, I'll hold the fort. And I said, okay, I'll try 3 or 4 months of just running. Because I've always wondered, you wonder if you just focus on something properly. And in the past, my best races have always been times of low stress and not working too much. So I thought, well, maybe just try. And I can honestly say, focusing on just running, I didn't get to actually prove it at UTMB because it was a really tough day out for me. But my training, the statistics from my training, the fitness that I could build, the vert that I could do, the engine that I still feel now, the benefits of, I think I could do much better if I did just focus on the running. And it is tempting. But I think it's difficult now where I am a bit older, and sort of my running career is not going to last forever. You're at an awkward point where you almost need like a big break, or you need to make it work as it is. I did start locuming, and I hope that will give me areas, at least like a block, that I could train properly for a race before racing. Because in the past, I literally rock up on the Friday having worked full shifts and overnights and stuff. And then I don't think it's always a fatigue thing, but it's a split focus, right? I think with anything, if you just focus on one thing, usually you're better at it. Multitasking, even though all of us want to be good at it, it's not really a thing. You're actually just doing jack of all trades, master of none most of the time. But yeah, in a way, it's kept me motivated, and I have the stubbornness that I want to prove to myself that I can do both, and I just don't have the luxury not to work. But on the other hand, I know that I could do a bit better. But that's life.
And I mean, as you say, it gives you those kind of lessons that you that you kind of learn. And the decision to move to New Zealand, how did that come about?
So as a vet from South Africa, there's only a couple of countries where you can work. So UK, Australia, New Zealand, and then for all the other places, you have to write exams and things. So it's a bit trickier. We were in the UK the year that it was full on COVID, and it was a very tough year for obvious reasons. And we realized we couldn't travel anything, which we wanted to go to the UK so that racing would be easier for me and all of that. And I think, like everyone, I realized how important family is and how important it is to be closer to people that you love, because it was so uncertain. And both my sisters are on that side of the world. So basically a couple decision between being closer to my family and just a place that I could work, that I could easily get a job. And since it's been quite eye-opening, and I don't know if we'll stay, I don't think so, but it's been a good experience to be there. Yeah, I think any experience like that where you're a bit out of your comfort zone is good.
And what's the trail running community like there?
That's the thing. That was the surprising thing. I think all of us in South Africa, we've got a perception of New Zealand in the sense that, I mean, I grew up watching rugby with my parents and seeing, say, the Olympics, and like the Kiwi athletes always do really well. I had this perception that there's lots of sport and everyone's sporty, and there's such good runners coming from New Zealand like Ruth and Daniel. But it's such a small country, very widespread, not a lot of people. And there's not a lot of big events, and because there's no train going from north to south or whatever, you're flying everywhere. It's very expensive. Traveling to races, the races itself are not sponsored by big sponsors, so they're very expensive as well. I think we would pay what we pay for a road run over there that you pay for a proper trail race with like a goodie bag and whatever. So it's very expensive. So without those things changing, I think it's always going to be few events, quite hard to get to. And for that reason, I don't think it's grown as much as over here. There's definitely small changes happening, but it's not like a community for that reason. There's small pockets here and there. And that's one of the things I miss a lot about here, because I get home and there's immediately a group of people going for a run, and it's just not just me. So it's quite
you
a
and
change.
some sheep.
We're very lucky over here,
Yeah.
very fortunate, and it's such a unique community of people and a mixed bag. And I think that in itself keeps a lot of people in the trail running because they like that community. But anyway, it's not that anything against the Kiwis. They're lovely people, but it is just not a thing there over there yet. Hopefully in the future.
We did chat a little bit about this year, and I think, we've all kind of felt it with you, because like you've obviously been open on social media, and obviously we can chat about that as well. But take me through that. I mean, it's obviously there's been highs and lows and more lessons, more lows. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, how did that kind of feel? As you said, like, cool, I'm going to do this professionally, and then it just doesn't work.
I think if I could make sense of it, I would. But I've gotten to the point where I'm like, it doesn't help to pick it apart too much. life happens. I did try and do everything on my side. I think the year kicked off with Tarawera, where I had a terrible travel fiasco. I can't even explain to people what it felt like to have flights cancelled minutes before the race and getting there an hour before. And like that kind of preparation goes out the window when you're that stressed. Same with Laverido. For me to be able to go to Europe, I had to work something like 14 days on call.
Wow.
That is being available and getting called out for 14 days in a row. And I think what that does to your stress levels, any amount of training or not training, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You're not the best version of yourself when you rock up. So I think those were very low points. But the main positive thing for me out of this year, I obviously didn't have the results I wanted to. And I have this constant nagging feeling that my time is running out, which is horrible. But the positive thing I take from this year is that I had that incredible training block where I could prove to myself, if I did spend a bit more time and I'm healthy, there's lots more that I am capable of. And I can take that into next year, hopefully with a little bit more luck. and hopefully have a couple of better races in a row now that I've got to space things out a bit better. So, yeah, I mean, a year is just a date to a date. I can start my year today and I can still have a better year. I try not to look back too much, but it is hard. And I think psychologically especially, because believing in yourself is damn hard, and you're often the only one believing in yourself. And it's hard to not look at your results and then extrapolate from there. But yeah, I think that's something to work on always. Whether you're doing well or not, you have to constantly remind yourself, why am I doing this? Is it intrinsic? So is it to prove to myself that I can do it? Because I enjoy it, because I want to be the kind of person that does these things, or is it to prove to other people that I'm capable? In which case, if you do it for that reason, you'll never really enjoy it that much, I think. No, that you'll always feel disappointed. I don't know.
UTMB, it didn't go as planned, but you finished and you did really well. Considering
the walk of shame.
Yeah. So what was the kind of what? Yeah, I mean, you get to that point, and what is it like that? I'm not going to DNF this. I'm going to just push through.
I think I decided the worth of going home, knowing at least I did the distance, like that's the thing I can take home, is at least I went around the mountain, was more than the sparing myself the shame of. And I did a lot of inner work while I was in Europe for that reason, because I think often you focus so much on your fitness, but your head, for your head's sake, you need to sometimes push through so that in the next race, when it's not going that well, your first option contingency plan is, okay, I'm pulling out. Like, I think if you do that all the time, it becomes too easy to give up. I knew that if I pulled out of UTMB, I had a Laverido DNF shortly before that, and I had 2 disastrous races before that. Mentally, it would mean that my next race would be really hard to finish. So I think I weighed up the pros and cons. I knew it was going to damage my body a lot because I was really in a bad way. I don't think I've ever seen myself in that bad a shape. My husband actually walked the last bit with me because he was worried that I was going to fall over. And at the end, he said to me, I've never seen you in this bad state. And we've run around Lake Malawi together. So I trust his opinion. So I think it was quite risky. I could have hurt myself, and I could have gotten an injury the way that, because I couldn't even drink any water for the last 4 hours or so of the race. So I think it was potentially dangerous, but the benefit of saying at least I did the distance, and I practiced holding on when it doesn't go according to plan. And that's valuable for anything, I guess, not just running.
And what was it like crossing that finish line?
Oh, it was very sad. I think I cried. My coach cried back in South Africa. My parents cried. It wasn't the celebration that I imagined. You see all these UTMB finish line videos, and especially, I think, I don't know, if a lot of people follow your journey, you often feel like it's what you can give back, is like smiling across the finish line. And I couldn't do that. And it was very sad. But, I mean, I can get stuck on that or I can move on. I did still finish. I'd beeline to the car and like, I don't even want a medal or a jacket or anything. Just leave me alone. But in the end, like I say, there's value in crossing the finish line, and that's what I'm going to take from it. But it will always, I can't make it disappear. It happened. It'll always be a tender point, I think.
Has it kind of lit the fire for next year for UTMB to go back and kind of prove that you can have a good race?
I think UTMB maybe the year after. I think next year, I don't know. It always changes. I always say never again, and then a couple of months later, I'm fired up. I am really, really, really hoping I'll get in for Western States this year. I've got 16 tickets in the lotto.
Sure.
My husband said, surely. I was like, yeah, surely. I'm really hoping for Western States. If that doesn't work out, I think I'll change my mind probably. I have my eye on TDS though.
Okay,
when I was there, I was like, this sounds like it's up my alley. It's in the beginning of the week where you can then end up supporting the other races. Because that's something I've never been able to do.
Yeah, that's a good
point. It's very technical, and it is just as hard, like because it's a little bit more technical and off the beaten track. So I think maybe something else to try. And then go back to UTMB. But I won't leave UTMB alone. There's still a couple of I still have a bone to pick that race. Yeah, I'll be back.
And you did really well at UTCT last year and the year before.
I've done so many UTCTs.
But now, that's what I was saying. Like, I think I was looking, and it goes back, your results kind of go back like 2016.
Yes.
Why do you keep coming back?
Oh, why not? I think because we were part of the first UTCTs. When there weren't as many people, but seeing it grow and knowing that that's my friends that did that to an international level, where if you walk with a UTCT cap at Chamonix, people are like, wow, have you done UTCT?
Oh, wow.
And it makes me so proud because some of my best friends were photographers at the race from the start. I met my husband through UTCT. Wow. I met Stu, and he is one of the most incredible humans I know. I've learned so much from him. I think whenever I've done UTCT, I have these heartwarming stories after that. It just happens in South Africa. Last year, for instance, I was in a really bad way going through Alpha, and I was literally walking almost backwards. So slowly I was going. And pain up and down my legs. I was cramping, and I just wanted to stop. And someone, I wish I could remember his name, came walking from the front, and he said, I saw on the live feed you're really struggling, and I just thought I'd come and walk with you and see if we can run together to Alphen. Stranger, and ran with me on and off. He said, let's run for 10 and then walk for 10. Made me actually run and went with me to Alphen Trails, and then said, cheers, bye. Like, someone follows me on Instagram that I've never met before, but that's our community. They'll do stuff like that. And if it wasn't for that person, I might have pulled out, or I might have like fallen over or whatever, just having that company. And it's just, our community is so special. I feel like UTCT is a celebration of that. It brings everyone from all over the country together, and wherever I've raced in the world, there is no other race for me in terms of vibe and how well it's organized and how it pulls the community together as UTCT. Not even the big European races or UTMB races overseas. So it stands out.
Incredible. And obviously you come back here, and it's obviously kind of a bit of a holiday. And so how do you kind of balance that, end of the year holiday, but you still,
That's a tough one. Last year we got married, and I literally did UTCT 2 weeks after, and we had not trained at all. I think my fitness score was something like 40, which usually I go into a race at about 80 or 90. And I think Xavier, my husband, was minus 12. We're both like super unfit. And it's hard to motivate yourself after something like that, where you almost feel like you need a holiday afterwards. But training here, I think just the moment I land here, I want to get onto Table Mountain. I'm just drawn to it. And then I run with people, and everyone's doing UTCT. Before I know it, here I go again. I think it happens to me rather than a choice that I make consciously. But I think to me, it's synonymous with coming home. I kind of factor that in. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I'm training for UTCT. I'm doing it. It is the reason why I've come home a couple of times. I've just flown in and out for UTCT. I can't always say I have a major holiday before, which might have shown in some of my results, but I try and at least come for the week before and give it my best.
And how are you feeling going into this year's one?
I'm very excited. I'm excited that there's more girls doing the miler. There's actually very strong competition, local and international. And I like the course changes. I think that's going to change the times quite a bit. So I'm more intrigued by that. I've got some personal time goals. I've got a very awesome crew. So I'm excited. I obviously hope for one good race in this year. But I'm also going in realistically. It's ultra trail running and anything can go wrong at any point. It's not if, but when.
But you've had a lot of ifs, so those can count.
Exactly.
Imagine you've had a hectic 2024. You've run a lot of races. You've put in a lot of effort. Now, cast your mind over to the clear waters of Zanzibar. Beyond white sand beaches, a dial sails across the horizon, and there you are, chilling in your hammock with your well-deserved rest for a hard-earned 2024. Want to make that happen? Check out Luggage Warehouse's Black Friday competition. One lucky shopper will win a return ticket to Zanzibar worth 9,000 Rand. Or you can trade it in for 4,500 Rand in cash, which you can use towards your race entries, your nutrition, or your gear for next year's running. Any purchase, big or small, gets you in the draw, and it's easy to enter. Just shop at luggagewarehouse.co.za or in their Cape Town and Joburg stores during Black Friday week. And if you want a bonus entry, sign up for Luggage Warehouse's newsletter and you'll get one when you make your purchase. Head over to luggagewarehouse.co.za/Zanzibar for the details. T's and C's apply. I was looking at the results and, UTD also, you've had some phenomenal results there, especially in 2019. What happened there? I mean, geez, it's over. You won it, well, you tied it overall, men and women.
That's an important point because we did run together.
That's incredible.
It was an awesome experience. I think what got me excited was running with a horse. Being such an animal lover, that was such a cool start to any event. And I think it was one of those rare days. I think most ultra trail runners, whether you're elite or not, will agree with me. Most people can count on their one hand those unicorn days where you feel good and you can just continue going. You're not nauseous. You don't have any gut bombs or whatever issues. And it was one of those rare days. I didn't eat for the first 80 kilometers. Wow. I was really struggling because it's altitude. And I never run at altitude that much. But as soon as we dropped down, I could eat. And so I was feeling really good till the end. And obviously, we didn't try and run it together. It just so happened that we ended up in the same spot continuously, even though we did our own race. And then we looked at each other and we're like, let's do this together. It's no point in racing the last kilometer. So it was just such a special race, I guess. The first sort of one and crazy. Quite an experience,
How did it feel like being a woman winning overall or tying for the win?
Afterwards, when I turned my phone on, I had about 1 million messages from girls saying go, do it for the girls. I think it changed. Before then, there was very strong women like Linda Dark and those sort of women that showed the men, listen, we're here for business. But I think that was kind of the start. That and a couple of other women performing really well at that year's one. I think Tony ran almost won overall as well. And that was such a good year for the girls. Was the start of in South Africa, girls are actually really good at ultra distance and we're here to compete and sort of put it in a serious light, which I was so happy about. It's good to be part of that whole movement.
It's amazing.
It was a good feeling. I think it's actually incredible to think that there are still people that sort of, I don't know, feel like there's not a place for women in this sport. But in my experience, most of all, we're so welcomed and so well taken care of. And so people are so stoked for us. And I never got that oh, you're a girl, you don't belong here feeling at all, which is beautiful from from our sports in our country, I feel like.
Yeah. No, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And then you went back in 2022, and how was that experience compared to the 2019 one?
I think 2022 was my first race after the whole COVID debacle. I had 30 races in total that I couldn't do throughout COVID.
Sure.
Big international races postponed, denied, and it was the first race I could do, and obviously a home race as well. And it was just amazing. I don't think I've ever felt as good in a race as that one. That was even better than the 100 miler. And I think I had a good time as well. It shows, and I can't remember having one bad moment in that whole race. It felt really, really good. So yeah, and I love that. Obviously, the 100K is a bit more running, and they took that last section out, which was the Giants Cup Trail. That was very technical. Yeah. So all in all, if you ran smartly the Sani Pass bit, then you've got legs and you can run. There's a lot of runnable parts in it. So for once in my life, I managed to not start too fast, and then I had a good day.
And how does the feeling, compare between UTD and UTCT?
They're very different and very the same in a way. Same as in you'll get a lot of the same people. With UTD, I think it even attracts more people from other areas of the country because it's a bit central. Yeah. UTD for me has always represented sort of the conservation aspect of that area because Spurge, who started the race, is very passionate about it. In the beginning, a lot of the funds went towards it as well. Like it was always, the focus was the area that you're in, the mountains. And there's definitely more, I want to say, wilderness there. There's areas where you're completely alone in the middle of nowhere, no buildings, no people, especially the 100 miler being up in Lesotho in the mountains at nighttime. Yeah. It really feels like those old authentic trail runs where it's about the mountain and overcoming the altitude, the weather. Cape Town for me, it's got more of a European trail feel because it attracts a lot of elites. It's a very beautifully organized, very beautifully branded, like it's got this class and for me obviously it is to showcase. I don't think there's any better way to see Cape Town than running around all the mountains. Yeah, it's just good. It's like a tour in a day. And obviously there's the ocean, there's different areas in Cape Town to see. But I think for me the focus is then our amazing trail community and this beautiful city we have to showcase. So it's got a different heart. Both of them has got the community, the awesome people, but it's got a slightly different sort of focus, I think. Yeah.
You've won or podiumed at like most of the 100 milers in South Africa, well, at least the big ones. How do you reflect on the kind of the development of the 100 miler and also racing in South Africa?
There's so many more races now. Every time I come home and I look at the trail running calendar, I'm like, there's more races and more milers. There's milers popping up everywhere, which is amazing. There used to be about 4 or 5 in total. So I can't claim that anymore. I used to be able to say that, but there's now 10 and I've maybe done 5 of them or whatever.
You've done the classics.
Yes. Still have to do Mac. I haven't done Mac.
Yes, I did notice that.
But yeah, I think it's such a positive thing. And the fact that it's spread all over so that a lot of people can do them. And for a lot of people, like I've started dabbling and coaching a bit, which is very exciting, finally, after so many years of running. And a lot of the athletes, their goal would be to finish a 100 miler. And it's so positive that there is a couple of opportunities in a year, not only one. And they're different technicalities, weather, whatever. So it opens up the door for people to try. Something like Karkloof could be your first 100 miler because it's more runnable. I wouldn't say the weather is better.
Snows, yeah.
Because it's not. You're not that high up in the mountains, but then it can snow. And whereas if you're an experienced trail runner, I mean, UTCT 100 mile is probably the toughest 100 miler. I might sound prejudiced, but I really think having raced in Europe and some of the islands, like the island races are pretty tough because they go from sea level to the highest point and they're technical. UTCT, I think, step for step, the hardest mile I've ever done. And a lot of overseas athletes say that as well. Yeah. So I think that there's this range of quite runnable, not as technical. You could run your PB fastest to endurance max.
Yeah.
So it's so positive. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And I was looking through your results and I saw you did the Salt Pans Ultra,
Yes.
which I'd never heard about until Marius did it. I think he did it this year.
Yes.
How was that experience and how was it racing,
cool.
outside of South Africa, in another country, in Africa?
It felt like I was running on the moon. It's been one of the coolest experiences. I still to this day feel like that was one of the most amazing opportunities I ever got. Just getting there.
Yeah.
It's like you fly in a small plane to somewhere in Africa and then I remember I walked out of the airport and there were like monkeys trying to steal people's stuff out of people's luggage. And I was like, this is Africa.
Yeah.
And then driving for something like 3 hours and there's like cattle and elephant in the road kind of thing. And when you run there, you have to constantly look at your GPS watch, because what's interesting, running on a straight line without a focus point is incredibly difficult. So you always veer to one side.
Yeah.
So they've drawn a straight line over the pans because there's no obstacles.
Yeah.
And you constantly have to until you see an aid station and then you can run in a straight line, which is very funny. And it's dead. There's no quieter place. It's dead quiet and it sounds like cornflakes crunching under your feet.
Oh,
That's
wow.
all you hear is
Wow.
for hours. So you can either go insane or
Or embrace it.
You almost feel at some point in the second day, it was quite a far run. I felt like I was going insane because it's like being in the middle of the ocean. If you look in any direction, there's nothing. There's white and blue.
Yeah.
And that's it. So if they didn't have bikes to come and check on us, you could go mad.
Yeah.
But it was such a cool experience. I feel like those people really went through the trouble of putting up this incredible race. Like you stay in tents, you have the Botswana night sky, you eat authentic cooked local food,
Yeah.
you hear the night animals, you have a night run to start with, and then you run through the pans and stay in the middle of the pan somewhere and then back. So I think the whole thing just felt like surreal almost. It's one of my favorite experiences in trail running.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how there've always been these kind of endurance races in other parts of Africa. They've never really been appealing, but suddenly now,
exactly.
they're
Mauritius,
the big
for
thing.
instance,
Yeah,
I think Mauritius has got some pretty tough races. Mud, elevation, quite hard terrain to race on. I did Ultra Trail Raid Light Mauritius a couple of years ago, and geez, that was tough. I think the island races, but I'm seeing more and more people traveling to Mauritius now that there's UTMB races.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, there's more things popping up everywhere. Zimbabwe is Skyrun.
Yeah.
There's a couple more that I'm thinking of. But yeah, that's so great because we've got Southern Africa is so beautiful, and there's areas that are safe, open, still unexplored.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you go to Malawi, there's beautiful trails in Malawi.
Yeah.
And nobody even knows about them,
Yeah.
uses them. So
It's
there's
incredible.
more to come, I'm sure.
Yeah. And Mauritius as well, it's always like you can go holiday afterwards. I think
exactly.
that's a nice bonus.
Exactly.
You run for Patagonia, which I don't know anyone else that does. How did that come about and what drew you to the brand? How's that development been?
I was really, really fortunate. I think just one of those things where you were in the right place at the right time. I went through vet school planning this run through, it was first going to be through Africa, but then winnowed it down to Southern Africa, and then it became around Lake Malawi. And I just wanted to do it to try doing something when I finished vet school to celebrate all the suffering of sitting in front of a desk. But then I decided to make it for a cause, and in the end, I worked with a wildlife vet. She saves pangolins, and I started then planning it for pangolin conservation, creating awareness. And when I was raising funds, the gone store owner, the local gone store owner, actually bought a painting I made for fundraising for us to do the thing, because students always do it poor. And we started talking, and they obviously followed us along as we did it and finished it. And when I came back, we had a conversation at the Gone store, and they stock the Patagonia they're the only people that brings it into South Africa. And we had a conversation, and then they made their 1% that they give to a cause that year to the Pangolin Conservation Group. And we did a talk in Johannesburg, locally, and so we started sort of making people aware and using whatever funds goes in towards African pangolin conservation. And then from there on, I think Patagonia, with most of their ambassadors, which you're not an ambassador, you're part of their program. There's different names for it. It's a kind of for life thing. It's not about performance at all. They actually do not support personal performance. So they won't give me funds to go and fly to a place to race. The Gone Store supports me in that way a little bit. Sure. But Patagonia will support any project that you do. And they do obviously try and provide gear, but they try and make you part of their projects. And if things like Protect the West Coast that Patagonia locally supports, for instance, I can get involved with that, and it keeps you honest, you know. I think racing for a brand that wants performance, there's this like mutual understanding that you're there because you perform well. I think if that's out of the way, it's about who you are more and what you bring to the table otherwise. And I think for me, that's been with having lots of challenges, work and immigrating and all of that. It's been such a welcome place to, because I'll always be a conservationist at heart and those things come naturally to me, but I won't always run well. So it's taken some of that pressure off, having to perform, and brought it back to who I am. Like trail running gives me a platform to talk about and raise awareness about things that I'm really passionate about. Otherwise, it becomes about me. But yeah, I don't know what the future will hold. Hopefully I can get more involved. It's a bit tricky in New Zealand, so hopefully I can get a bit more involved when I'm back again. But yeah, I'd love to do projects locally and stuff like that if I can. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You're such an advocate for like mental health and, you know, like the resilience. What are your kind of race strategies for, you know, resilience and when you kind of hit those low moments?
Sure. I mean, I'm human, so I get I get really low moments, and I have had races where I've had to stop. I think it's a good dose of being stubborn and competitive and like hard on myself on the one hand. But I think there's been a few things that's happened in my life, happened around me, that I've had to be resilient in order to get to the other side of it. And the more you do of those kind of things, which is probably why I started doing ultra trail running, it builds resilience, and then you can use it for the next one and the next one. I often refer back to races I've been through when I'm in a race, and I thought, okay, I could do it that time. I can do it this time. I've been through, could go into detail, but I've been through like being attacked and that trauma of like having to recover from that, and sort of life flashing in front of your eyes. And knowing that the alternative of not being resilient is giving up. And nobody's gonna come and save you, or nobody can make that choice for you. So if you're not going to give up, what are you going to do? You've got to find ways of making it work. I think in races, most of the time, I do feel like people around me have helped me a lot. Your crew, people that are just there to support people, volunteers. Like when I see other people around me struggling, or I see them supporting, I'm very much someone who wants to make other people happy as well. It kind of drives me to go, well, these people are here for me. I want to make them proud. And so that has often pulled me out of my depths. For instance, seeing my dad at UTCT brings me to tears, and then I want to finish, show him. And yeah, I think the fact that I know if I push through, next time I can use this one. Like I say, it's this carryover thing, that the more you build resilience, the more you'll have, the more you can use it. At some point, I think if a lot of things knocks you down in a row, like this year that I've had, it's only human to be a little bit low and to have to start to build that up again.
Yeah.
So, like I say, I might be resilient, but I'm only human. I think all of us go through phases where you feel a bit more confident and like you can do it. But yeah, that's when you rely on other people that know you and love you, and that, like, my coach will tell me you can, and then I just believe him.
Yeah.
In those times where I'm not feeling it myself.
You mentioned in the beginning about community, but what do you think it is about trail running that just has this amazing community, and what do you kind of love about it?
I think the fact that it welcomes everyone. I think as an adult, it's quite hard to make friends. It's hard to find people that are like you. And I think in trail running, I found a lot of people that I have so much in common with. People that love being outside, people that love nature, people that love animals, people that love getting lost on an adventure for hours. I think it draws all those people together, and that's where, I don't know, you can support one another. That's where big ideas come from. That's where you organize to go run together, yes, but also have a bride together. And like I think it just draws people together that have a mutual respect for the mountains and a mutual sort of interest, I guess. And what I've found, regardless of my results, it is still welcoming. It's not just a result-driven thing. I think there's enough people that are just runners that are part of it. They'll always feel like it's amazing just to finish 100-miler. It's amazing just to be part of it. That's what I like about it. I think in a lot of sports it's more performance, status-driven, whereas trail running, I feel like it has a little spot for everyone.
Yeah, no, that's amazing.
Yeah.
We did chat a little bit about it, but reflecting on the role, that women are, and more women getting into the sport, how do you kind of reflect back on that, the growth, and what sort of advice would you give to women wanting to get into the sport?
Often I'll have girls message me and ask me basic things like, do you think I can run a 50K? Or what do you do for nutrition? Or I have had problems with iron deficiency. What do I do? Or I have children and I don't have time. Or like, I'll have people send me these messages, and I know it sounds cliche, but I keep on telling them, like, if I can, you can. Like, I think the more of us doing this sport, the more sort of, I think little girls see their parents doing it. I think at Three Peaks there were 2 little girls there that both their parents are running, and they see this example of what can be done. So I feel like we're not, if I can give advice, is you're not just doing it for yourself, you're also doing it for the next generation. And I don't know, what would you tell if you had a niece or a daughter of your own, is you can do anything. I think we need to start to believe that again. I think there's always the danger aspect, especially locally. I feel that is definitely understandable. I think being back, I've thought about it a bit more, because it is definitely a thing. But I think the beauty, other side of the coin, it forces you to run with people.
Yeah.
And some of the best friends I made is people that'll get up at 6 to run the Lions Loop with me for safety. You end up having such good chats. And even though I'm a person that likes running by myself, I feel like that is probably more necessary than you think. It's the reason why we have big groups like Chicks Who Trail who all bind together to do it. So I think if we choose to see that positive side, is that you can get into running, but if you feel unsafe, there's other people doing it, safety in numbers, go meet some people. It's a wonderful way of meeting people that have, like I say, mutual interests and mutual goals, and you're not doing it by yourself. So yeah, I think let's keep on growing it. There's enough people, inspiring people like Tony, for instance, who has started from not a running background, and she's become this incredible icon, down to earth. Like, there's so many relatable examples from our community, we can do it, you can.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
The advice side of it, and you did mention the coaching side of it. What draws you to that, and what advice do you kind of give to people that are wanting to kind of get into trail running, from your kind of perspective?
I think I had a chat with my coach the other day when we were talking about coaching, and I think, like with any sport, the most tricky thing the magic trick, that thing that everyone's looking for, the answer to the secret sauce, whatever, is consistency. And I think that for me, not only getting myself to be consistent, I think if I constantly tell other people to be consistent, I'm going to have to do that myself as well, which I try, but I think it's a reminder. But the advice that I can give, the best advice, is if you want to get into any sport, running or trail running, the more you do it, the more confidence you'll have, the better you'll get at it, the more fit you become, the more you enjoy it, the more. So, and with trail running, other than road running, I feel like, yes, you have to consistently run, but bringing in some faster sprints and some hills and some off-terrain training is, you can go run on the road and then do a trail race, but it's less enjoyable. Like with anything, if you practice your technical skills, you practice running up a hill, you practice doing short sprint sessions, and whether that's getting a program online or training with someone that has a bit of an idea what they're doing, or getting a coach, it helps to have some structure to get you into doing those things, because they don't come natural. I think if we could choose, we'd all just go run for an hour easy. If you have a little bit of a plan of once a week I'm going to do some hills, once a week I'm going to do some sprints, it gets you to do those hard things that you will benefit most from in a race. Where you're doing, it's basically simulation of a trail race if you're doing some hills and some sprints. Get some really good shoes. I think with trail running, we don't have a lot of gear. There's packs and things for the longer runs, but invest in some really good shoes. And practice. Yeah. Be consistent.
What does the kind of future hold for you? You did mention the coaching. You've mentioned a few things. What is kind of immediate future, short-term, long-term, when you kind of look at it?
I hope to. There's a few very sort of special races still on my list that I want to do personally for my own running self. I've always said I'm too young for like Tour and Moab and Gobi and those big long races. I think there's a bit of a stigma that you have to be older and slower. Yeah. But I do still want to do them. So they're definitely on my list. One of the things I really badly want to do is Morocco's Marathon des Sables. Yeah. With different kind of challenges, deserts and heats and all of that. So in the next couple of years, I'll probably still try and race my heart out, do more 100K, 100-mile races. Diagonal de Feu is on my list. Hopefully Western States, if I ever get into onto the list. And Hard Rock is definitely on my list still. So I have those that if I don't do them, I'm going to come back as a ghost to do them. Yeah. And then I have a few personal projects that I've been planning for years. I actually was quite gutted to see the girl doing the Appalachian FKT, because I ordered, when we were still living in Cape Town, I ordered the Appalachian Trail map, and I was going to try and do that. But I'll still try at some point. I still have the map. I do want to run across the Moroccan Atlas, so do the FKT of the Atlas Mountains. So there's personal projects like that. And I think if I can somehow space out my veterinary work so that I can have more time to coach, I'll probably try and do more of that in terms of helping other people get into the sport, and hopefully grow a little bit of a group of athletes that I can help and coach, and
amazing.
Maybe go to their races and pay forward all the things that I've learned through years and years and years of trial and error.
Trial and error, I love that.
Exactly.
What on that on the note of the FKTs, what kind of draws you to those kind of challenges as opposed to like a race or things like that?
I think with personal projects, you've really, the only one invested in it is you. I remember running Hadrian's Wall FKT at 3:00 in the morning in the rain, thinking, what the hell am I doing? Nobody's forcing me. It's not even a race.
No one knows you're there. No one knows what's going on.
But it makes it such a personal thing. It's literally, you put a challenge up for yourself and you go do it, and it doesn't have the judgment or the support from many people. It's you and you. And I think I've spoken to Ryan about it, for instance. I think he has the same sentiments. It's the amount you grow and learn through something like that. I don't think the race has many distractions like, what are the other people going to think? Whereas with an FKT, it's like being on an adventure with challenges that you have to face. It only makes you a stronger person for then doing racing and stuff. But I think I'm actually more adventurer at heart. That kind of thing probably suits me a little bit better than racing, just because I think I like setting a personal challenge for myself. And I think with those like 13 peaks, maybe not, because I have seen a lot of the peaks and things, but like the FKT in Morocco, I just think of the things you'll see and the experience of running at 4,000 meters for most of the peaks. And there's just so much to explore there, whether it's how you can handle altitude or the people. So I think it's the curiosity of it. It's
Amazing.
Like, what will I find?
Amazing.
Finishing it isn't even top of the list. It's more the actual experience.
Post UTCT, is it a bit of a break, or is it?
My race calendar is a bit uncertain because I've been away from New Zealand so long. I have to be there for a couple of months in a row to not forfeit my chance of getting a permanent residency. So it has muddled things up for me a little bit. I'll probably try and do local races. Again, if the lotto goes well, I might be training for a big race and then just sort of focusing on that. But I'm very keen to follow the World Trail Majors. A lot of the races are in the beginning of the year, which makes it a bit tricky. But if Western States is not a possibility, then I'll probably try and do that. I'll probably try and do one of the beginning races. Madeira is on my list. And then if I don't go to UTMB, there's a Pyrenees one, and then maybe come back to UTC.
So you have to do 4, right?
Yeah.
And Tarawera, are you going back next year?
No, I feel like I've done a few Taraweras. It's in a difficult time of the year. I think if you've done UTCT, the turnaround from doing a big mountain 100-miler to a flat running race, I think it starts the year. It's great because it usually makes me really, really fit in the beginning of the year, but it makes the second half of racing, which I feel like a lot of the important races are from June onwards. So I think I've learned a little bit from that with work, for instance, that's the busy time of the year. So I would rather try and prepare myself better for the second. Even from March onwards is a bit better. But I think turnaround from UTCT being tired and then trying to push your body is not always the best idea. Maybe in the future again.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you very much. This was amazing.
No worries. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Yeah, and thanks for taking time.
Absolutely.
And good luck with UTCT.
Thank you. It's close, eh?
Yeah, it's very close.
Eek.
Yeah. Are you tapering now?
Not yet.
Okay.
But soon.
Okay.
I'm actually looking forward to the taper.
Yeah.
It's been quite a training block. Let's see. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Amazing. Thank you.
Thanks.
Feeling fired up after this incredible episode? Dive deeper into the world of trail running by exploring our other episodes, available wherever you get your podcasts. We're eagerly awaiting your feedback as well, so connect with us on Instagram @TrailChasersPod. Don't hold back. Like, comment, message, and share your thoughts. Until next week, keep chasing those trails.